All right, everyone, we need to talk immediately because what's unfolding across the United States right now is absolutely catastrophic. And Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, and Buffalo are getting absolutely buried alive. This isn't your typical January forecast anymore. This is a massive weather disaster happening in real time as temperatures are crashing to deadly levels from Chicago to Boston. What I'm about to show you is going to blow your mind because the Climate Prediction Center just issued the most shocking January outlook in decades, while models show complete chaos. We're breaking down exactly why 50 million Americans from Minneapolis to Philadelphia are facing the most dangerous temperature whiplash in modern history. But here's the thing that should absolutely terrify you. This same pattern is about to trigger massive snowstorms, devastating ice storms, and unprecedented warmth, all in the same month. This energy isn't done with us, not even close, because what's developing could make January 2026 the most legendarily volatile month we've ever witnessed. First things first, let's look at what's already happening right now, because December just delivered the most deceptive weather pattern that's setting up January for absolute chaos. Chicago hit negative 15 degrees during the first half of December, while New York City saw temperatures 12 degrees below normal for 2 solid weeks. But then Detroit soared to 55 degrees, Cleveland reached 52, and Buffalo hit 48 degrees during Christmas week, creating the most confusing temperature pattern meteorologists have ever recorded. This massive temperature whiplash from December is now triggering the most unprecedented forecasting disagreement between the Climate Prediction Center and every major weather model. The Climate Prediction Center just shocked the meteorological world by predicting colder than normal temperatures for Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia. Meanwhile, every single weather model is showing the complete opposite, with massive warming from Minneapolis to Boston, creating absolute forecasting chaos. This disagreement is so massive that it's affecting winter weather preparations for over 100 million Americans from the Great Lakes to the Atlantic coast. But here's what happened during New Year's Eve that proves just how dangerous this pattern is becoming. Travelers from Pittsburgh to Buffalo experienced absolutely life-threatening conditions. If you were traveling last night anywhere from Cleveland to Detroit, from Cincinnati to Columbus, from Toledo to Erie, from Akron to Rochester, you faced intense snow squalls that made travel impossible. This wasn't just heavy snow. This was the kind of squall system that strands people and creates life-threatening situations for anyone caught outside. Right as this system reached its lowest pressure and highest intensity, which meteorologists are calling a legitimate bomb cyclone, heavy snowfall absolutely hammered Wisconsin and Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Once we reached midnight on New Year's Eve, things escalated dramatically for the entirety of the Upper Peninsula, with heavy, relentless snowfall combined with dangerous winds. We experienced legitimate blizzard conditions throughout many areas, creating the kind of weather that makes travel impossible and strands thousands of people. That absolutely razor-sharp squall line formed exactly as predicted around Chicago at 5 p.m. yesterday, delivering significant snow across Chicago, Rockford, and Joliet. The system extended all the way to Fort Wayne, South Bend, and into southwestern portions of Detroit, Grand Rapids, and Kalamazoo with devastating intensity. This storm picked up tremendous energy off the Great Lakes, and that incredibly sharp cold front formed right in the corridor where millions of people were traveling. Northern Illinois and northern Indiana got hammered during the early morning hours when temperatures were coldest and snow accumulated most efficiently. Everyone else across the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Mid-Atlantic received maybe an inch of snow, but the lake effect zones got absolutely destroyed. By this morning, some places in upstate New York, particularly south of Buffalo, east of Cleveland, and west of Rochester, have seen 23 inches of additional snow. Some areas south of Buffalo received 14 inches, while west of Toronto accumulated 13 inches of additional snow on top of what was already there. Western Michigan saw 3 to 4 inches west of Kalamazoo, around Grand Rapids, and north of Muskegon, while northern Lower Michigan experienced 8 inches around Traverse City. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan received over a foot of additional snow around Marquette, Escanaba, and Iron Mountain, creating absolutely treacherous conditions. Understanding the meteorology behind these extreme totals helps you grasp why lake-effect snow becomes so incredibly dangerous and localized. Lake-effect snow occurs when extremely cold air masses move over the relatively warm Great Lakes, creating intense convective snow bands that dump enormous amounts of snow. Now let's talk about the bone-chilling temperatures that accompanied this system, because the cold was absolutely brutal across the northern states this morning. We saw temperatures near Milwaukee, Green Bay, Madison, Minneapolis, Duluth, and Fargo that dropped to 0 degrees or below zero this morning. Northern Minnesota, Grand Forks, and Bismarck experienced -5 degrees with significant winds, making the wind chill feel like -20 or colder. Down in Lexington, Louisville, Nashville, and Memphis, temperatures dropped to around 30 degrees, causing any precipitation to freeze immediately. From St. Louis up to Indianapolis, Columbus, and Detroit, any snow or rain that fell as a result of this powerful cold front froze instantly. Upstate New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire experienced extremely cold conditions, though not quite as brutal as the -25 degrees recorded in Canada. While the East dealt with snow and freezing temperatures, the West experienced the complete opposite, with significant warming and dangerous thunderstorms. Los Angeles, San Diego, and Riverside received substantial Pacific moisture that created severe thunderstorms and 2 to 4 inches of dangerous rainfall. This rainfall occurred in areas with recent burn scars around Malibu, Ventura County, and Santa Barbara, triggering evacuations due to debris flow risks. We saw genuine thunderstorms capable of rotation moving through Los Angeles, Orange County, and the Inland Empire, creating multiple simultaneous weather emergencies. The Storm Prediction Center issued marginal risks for severe weather in Southern California, while the Northeast battled life-threatening cold and snow. This pattern demonstrates exactly why January 2026 is shaping up to be the most volatile month in modern meteorological history. Now here's where this gets absolutely mind-blowing. The European model shows brutal Arctic air dominating Chicago, Detroit, Milwaukee, and Minneapolis through January 9th. Buffalo could experience temperatures staying below 20 degrees for 7 straight days, while Cleveland faces the longest cold snap since 1994. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York City, and Boston are forecast to experience their coldest January start in over a decade, according to European model data. But then something absolutely unprecedented happens around January 9th, when temperatures could explode upward by 40 to 50 degrees in just 48 hours. Chicago could rocket from 10 below zero to 45 above in 2 days, while Detroit jumps from 5 degrees to 50 degrees faster than meteorologists have ever recorded. This temperature explosion is driven by a massive ridge building over Kansas City, St. Louis, Nashville, Atlanta, and Charlotte that will absolutely supercharge warming. The Climate Prediction Center believes this warming period is temporary and that brutal cold will return to dominate the Great Lakes after January 15th. If they're correct, January could end up colder than normal despite the massive warm-up. But if models are right, record warmth could occur. This forecasting battle has absolutely massive implications because snow removal budgets for major cities depend entirely on which prediction proves accurate. Energy companies serving Minneapolis, Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, and Buffalo are making billion-dollar decisions based on these conflicting temperature forecasts. But here's where this becomes absolutely catastrophic for transportation. The first week of January brings dangerous conditions to every major airport. Chicago O'Hare could face blizzard conditions with near zero visibility, while Detroit Metro experiences life-threatening temperature drops. Cleveland Hopkins Airport is forecast for the worst travel conditions since 2014, and Buffalo Niagara could be completely shut down by lake effect snow. Interstate 90 from Chicago through Cleveland to Buffalo could become absolutely impassable during multiple periods throughout early January. Interstate 75 from Detroit through Toledo to Cincinnati faces dangerous ice storm potential that could cripple transportation for days. The Pennsylvania Turnpike from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia could experience the most treacherous conditions in recent memory, with snow and ice threats. Interstate 95 from New York City to Boston faces potential travel nightmares as temperatures swing from deadly cold to flooding warmth. Now here's the absolutely shocking part. If the massive warm-up occurs around January 9th, the epic snowpack could melt catastrophically fast. Buffalo could see 3 feet of snow melt in 72 hours, creating the worst flooding since major historic events decades ago. Cleveland, Detroit, and Chicago could experience simultaneous snowmelt flooding while dealing with dangerous ice jams on major river systems. The Cuyahoga River through Cleveland, Detroit River, and Chicago River could all experience dangerous ice jam flooding simultaneously for the first time. This pattern shift is being driven by multiple global teleconnections with the Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation, and Pacific North American pattern aligning. When these 3 critical atmospheric indicators align in their most favorable phases simultaneously, winter essentially unleashes with unprecedented force. With this dramatic warm-up, we're also going to experience an explosive increase in storm activity that could reshape the entire weather pattern. Look at all the storm activity that starts absolutely erupting after January 8th. We're going to have trough after trough hammering through. Cold air is going to battle this warm air invasion, creating what could be the most legendarily volatile January in recorded history. This warm versus cold air collision is going to unleash an incredible number of powerful storm systems across multiple regions simultaneously. Some regions will get absolutely buried in snow, while others face severe weather threats that could be absolutely devastating. We could see ice storms that cripple infrastructure from Oklahoma straight through Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, and into the Virginias and Carolinas. These ice storms could leave millions without power for days or weeks, creating humanitarian emergencies across the southeastern United States. Multiple massive snowstorms could potentially hammer the Midwest and Great Lakes, possibly burying cities like Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, and Buffalo. Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Grand Rapids, Toledo, Syracuse, Rochester, and Albany could all experience historic snowfall accumulations. But here's what makes this pattern absolutely unprecedented. The volatility means these systems could affect areas much farther south than normal. Areas from Houston through Dallas, Little Rock, Memphis, Nashville, Knoxville, Charlotte, and Raleigh could experience rare winter weather events. The GFS model shows virtually no sustained cold for major cities, which would create the warmest January on record for millions of Americans. This would completely eliminate traditional winter weather patterns and could affect everything from agriculture to energy consumption. Ski resorts from Vermont's Green Mountains to Colorado's Rockies are making massive financial decisions based on these conflicting forecasts. The winter recreation industry worth billions of dollars hangs in the balance as temperature predictions remain completely contradictory. Emergency management agencies from Chicago to Boston are preparing for multiple scenarios because they cannot rely on consistent forecasting guidance. Snow removal contractors across the Midwest and Northeast are caught in an impossible planning situation with completely conflicting professional forecasts. Natural gas and heating oil prices are experiencing massive volatility because energy traders cannot determine reliable demand patterns. Agricultural interests across the Corn Belt and Northeast are completely confused about crop planting because temperature patterns remain unpredictable. The insurance industry is closely monitoring this forecasting challenge because weather-related claims could reach historic levels regardless of outcome. Transportation systems serving 100 million people are making critical infrastructure decisions with completely contradictory weather information. Utility companies from Minneapolis to Boston have no reliable guidance for energy demand planning during this critical winter period. Professional meteorologists are calling this the most challenging forecast situation they've encountered because the stakes are enormously high. The reputation of seasonal forecasting versus short-term modeling is literally on the line with this January 2026 prediction battle. International weather agencies are monitoring this unprecedented situation to understand how similar challenges might affect global forecasting operations. Climate change research institutions are studying whether this represents new atmospheric behavior patterns emerging in a changing climate. The potential for climate change to affect traditional weather patterns makes this forecasting disagreement scientifically significant beyond just January. Here's the absolutely critical information you need for immediate travel planning. Dangerous conditions are guaranteed from Chicago to Boston. Whether from Arctic cold, lake effect snow, freezing rain, or rapid temperature changes, every major highway and airport faces significant risks. Chicago O'Hare, Detroit Metro, Cleveland Hopkins, Buffalo Niagara, Pittsburgh International, and Philadelphia International should be avoided if possible. Boston Logan, LaGuardia, JFK, Newark, and all regional airports face potential cancellations and dangerous conditions throughout early January. Interstate travel from Minneapolis through Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston requires emergency preparations. Emergency supply kits are absolutely mandatory because weather conditions could deteriorate faster than emergency services can respond. Food, water, blankets, medications, flashlights, and battery packs should be carried by anyone traveling through affected regions. Power outages are highly probable from Minneapolis to Boston due to extreme weather, regardless of which temperature scenario occurs. Ice storms could down power lines across the southeast, while blizzards could cause outages across the northeast simultaneously. Heating systems could fail during the coldest periods, creating life-threatening situations for vulnerable populations, including elderly and children. Carbon monoxide poisoning risk increased dramatically when people use improper heating methods during power outages and extreme cold. The next 2 weeks will determine whether January 2026 becomes legendary for record cold, historic warmth, or unprecedented volatility. What makes this absolutely fascinating is that either outcome creates dangerous conditions. Extreme cold brings hypothermia, while rapid warming triggers flooding. This represents the most significant test of weather forecasting capabilities in modern meteorological history, with real consequences for millions. The resolution of this forecasting battle will influence seasonal prediction approaches for decades, while affecting public trust in weather science. Educational institutions teaching atmospheric sciences will use this case study to demonstrate the challenges and limitations of long-range forecasting. The scientific community recognizes this as a critical test of our understanding of atmospheric behavior and prediction methodologies. Mathematical modeling of atmospheric systems continues improving, but cases like this show significant challenges remain in weather prediction. The bottom line: January 2026 has become the most unpredictable month in meteorological history with absolutely massive implications. Whether you're in Chicago dealing with potential blizzards, Detroit facing temperature whiplash, or Boston preparing for unknown conditions, this month will be legendary. The atmospheric setup is absolutely perfect for historic weather events, but nobody knows exactly what form they'll take or when they'll strike. From Minneapolis and Chicago to Cleveland, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston, prepare for the most volatile January ever recorded. Make sure you're subscribed and notifications are turned on because this story will develop rapidly throughout January with potentially historic consequences. Drop your specific city in the comments and I'll provide targeted guidance for your area as this unprecedented pattern unfolds. Share this critical information with everyone you know because January 2026 could reshape our understanding of winter weather forever. This is exactly why weather forecasting remains the most challenging and fascinating scientific endeavor, because nature continues to surprise us. January 2026 will be remembered as either the month that broke weather forecasting or proved atmospheric uncertainty is the new normal. Until the next update, stay weather aware, stay prepared, and remember that this January could literally change everything we know about winter patterns forever.